That 2-year-old girl traveling unaccompanied, found by the Texas Department of Public Safety in Maverick County, carrying only, as you see there, a piece of paper with a phone number and a name. The girl, we are told, traveled from El Salvador. Now, NewsNation has frequently reported on the crisis of unaccompanied migrant children at the border. Thousands are lost in the immigration shuffle with no court dates, or worse, their whereabouts sometimes unknown. Plus a high chance that migrant children are being exploited and trafficked. Our senior national correspondent, Brian Entin, is following this story right now for us. Brian, what do we know about this little girl and how she got there and where she might be tonight?
Yeah, Blake, I mean, it is heartbreaking. Covering the border, you see a lot. You see a lot of kids, you see a lot of families in desperate situations, but I don't know that we've really seen anything quite like this because this little girl is just 2 years old. Yeah. She's in that little pink hoodie. She's holding, it's like a yellow Post-it note, and on the note there was a phone number and it said Mama Patty, and she was able to tell the Border Patrol there that she was from El Salvador. But she kept saying that she was alone. I mean, you'd have to imagine she was, at least someone was sort of keeping an eye on her. But she was in a group of about 200 migrants that were crossing together. 60 of them were unaccompanied minors, which Texas Department of Public Safety says they have never encountered a group with that many kids alone. 60 of them. The highest number they've seen before was about 50 a couple of weeks ago. This had 60 kids, but the 2-year-old was obviously the youngest. Listen to what the Department of Public Safety said out there. Take a look.
That 2-year-old, that's a very powerful video, just making contact with that 2-year-old little girl from El Salvador. All she had was a little piece of paper with a first name and a phone number, so not even an address. So we don't really know where this child is going to end up or who is that person, behind that phone number.
So basically what happens, Blake, is Border Patrol takes all of the migrants into custody, including the kids. But what happens with these kids is they end up going to the Department of Health and Human Services. They have shelters for kids. But exactly what happens to them, do they ever actually find the parents? A lot of that is still a mystery. And you said it at the beginning. I mean, there are thousands, 320,000 kids that have just gone basically missing.
Brian, how is it a mystery of what happens next? I mean, you're the best reporter I know. We have reporters on the border nonstop. This has been a major story for years now. I would think that there would be an answer there of sort of what comes next. I'm not directing this at you. It's just, it baffles me that that's the case.
Yeah, I think the issue is the federal government is very secretive about what happens to these kids once they're in their custody. Like the video that you see right there and the interview you just saw, that's from the state, the Department of Public Safety, the state officials will speak out. Once they get in Border Patrol custody and once they get in the Department of Health and Human Services, they won't really say much. I mean, you've seen they don't let people come in and look at the shelters very easily. A lot of it is done behind closed doors. But I mean, the number 320,000 kids that they have lost track of. And you just think, I mean, if someone went out and tried to scoop this kid up or kidnap these kids on the border, no one would ever know. I mean, the parents aren't going to call the police because they're scared. They're here undocumented. And no one ever really knows what happens to these kids. And it's really, really sad.
Brian Entin reporting for us tonight. Brian, it's sad. And there's a lot of other feelings and emotions when you see that little girl there, again, just 2 years old with a Post-it note.